In 1944, the Netherlands had been under Nazi occupation for 4 years. After the German invasion in 1940, a systematic process of persecution began against the Jewish population. Jewish people were required to register, forced to wear the Yellow Star of David, banned from schools and professions, and gradually isolated from public life. By this time, tens of thousands of Dutch Jews had already been arrested and deported to concentration and extermination camps in Eastern Europe. House-to-house raids were common, and the Gestapo relied heavily on informants within the population. As Allied forces advanced in 1944, Nazi authorities intensified their search operations. This made hiding increasingly difficult and dangerous. In this environment, the Frank family, along with 4 others, remained concealed in a secret attic space in Amsterdam known as the Secret Annex. In July 1942, Otto Frank moved his family into the hidden rooms above his business premises. They were later joined by the Van Pels family and Fritz Pfeffer. For more than 2 years, the 8 individuals lived in strict secrecy. They avoided making noise during working hours, relied on a small group of helpers for food and supplies, and had no contact with the outside world. And Frank documented their daily life, fears, and restrictions in her diary. On August 4, 1944, the Secret Annex was raided by the Gestapo. The exact identity of the person who informed on them remains uncertain and debated among historians. All 8 people in hiding were arrested and taken first to the Westerbork transit camp in the Netherlands. Westerbork functioned as a temporary holding facility before deportations to larger camps. In September 1944, and Frank and the others were transported by train to Auschwitz-Birkenau in occupied Poland. They were packed into overcrowded cattle cars with little food, water, or ventilation. Upon arrival, men and women were separated. Otto Frank was separated from his wife and daughter. Anne and her sister Margot were selected for forced labor rather than immediate execution. Conditions in Auschwitz were severe. Prisoners faced chronic food shortages, extreme physical labor, overcrowded barracks, and widespread disease. Many prisoners died from exhaustion, starvation, or illness. As Soviet forces approached in late 1944, the camp was partially evacuated. In October 1944, Anne and Margot Frank were transferred to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. Unlike Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen did not have gas chambers, but conditions were extremely poor. The camp suffered from severe overcrowding, inadequate sanitation, and minimal medical care. In the winter of 1944 to 1945, conditions in Bergen-Belsen deteriorated rapidly. The camp was massively overcrowded, food supplies were irregular, and sanitation had largely collapsed. Clean drinking water was scarce, and lice infestation was widespread. Under these conditions, a typhus epidemic spread through the camp. Prisoners who were already weakened by months of starvation and forced labor were especially vulnerable. And Frank and her sister Margot both contracted typhus in early 1945. Contemporary accounts from fellow prisoners indicate that Margot became extremely weak and died first after collapsing in the barracks. And died shortly afterward, most likely in February 1945. British forces liberated the camp in April 1945, only weeks later. And Frank did not survive the Holocaust. However, her diary, published after the war by her father Otto Frank, became one of the most widely read first-hand accounts of Jewish life in hiding during Nazi occupation.